The sun was setting over Ajigonal, casting long shadows on the narrow, dusty streets. Chukwudi Nwosu walked slowly, his hands buried in his pockets, his stomach rumbling from hunger. Life had not been kind to him. A 26-year-old graduate of business administration, he had been job hunting for 3 years with nothing to show for it. His family, his mother, Mama Chinya, and his 2 younger sisters, Kechi and Amarochi, depended on him, but he had nothing to offer them. His father had died when he was 10, leaving Mama Chinya to struggle as a petty trader. She had sacrificed everything to see him through school, always telling him, "My son, one day, God go bless you." But Chukwudi was tired of waiting for God. The pressure at home was suffocating. His mother constantly reminded him of his responsibilities, and his sisters looked up to him. Worst of all was his girlfriend, Ezin, who had started acting differently lately. One evening, after another frustrating day of unsuccessful job hunting, he visited Ezin. She looked at him with irritation as he entered her small apartment. "Chukwudi, how long will I continue like this?" she asked, folding her arms. "My friends are flexing with their boyfriends, traveling to Dubai, wearing designer clothes, using the latest iPhones. But me, I'm still here with you, suffering." Chukwudi sighed. "Ezin, you know I'm trying. I just need more time." She scoffed. "Time? You don't even have money for your own transport. Look at you. Your mates are buying Benz, building houses, and you're here talking about time." Her words cut deep. That night, as he walked home, he felt like a failure. Maybe Ezin was right. Maybe he needed to find another way. The next day, Chukwudi sat outside his compound, lost in thought, when he saw his childhood friend, Ifeanyi Okeke, drive by in a brand new Lexus RX 350. Ifeanyi had once been like him, broke and hopeless. But now, everything had changed. "Chukwudi, my guy. Wetin dey sup?" Ifeanyi called out, stepping out of his car. His gold chain glittered under the streetlight. Chukwudi forced a smile. "Nothing, bro. Just dey reason my life." Ifeanyi laughed. "Omo, forget that one. Why you still dey suffer like this? You no wan blow?" Chukwudi sighed. "I want to, but no way." Ifeanyi's smile widened. "There's a way. But e get as e be." Chukwudi leaned forward. "Tell me." Ifeanyi looked around and whispered, "Yahoo Plus." Chukwudi stiffened. He had heard of Yahoo Plus, the advanced form of internet fraud that required rituals and human sacrifices for wealth. "No, Ifeanyi. I no fit do that one," he said quickly. Ifeanyi smirked. "No, so I talked before. But see me now. You won't continue dey suffer. You won't make your mama and sisters continue dey beg for food. Or you won't drive Benz and live in Lekki." The words struck Chukwudi deep. He thought of his suffering mother, his starving sisters, and the way Ezin had mocked him. "What do I need to do?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ifeanyi smiled. "Meet me tonight. We dey go see Baba." That night, Chukwudi followed Ifeanyi to a remote village in Ogun State, where an old shrine stood deep in the forest. They were greeted by Baba Kalemu, a strange, dark-skinned man with piercing red eyes. Baba Kalemu stared at Chukwudi for a long time before speaking. "You want money?" Chukwudi nodded. "Yes, Baba." Baba Kalemu chuckled. "Money dey. But e get price." Chukwudi swallowed hard. "Wetin be the price?" Baba Kalemu's smile widened. "Blood." Chukwudi's stomach twisted. He had expected something bad, but hearing it said out loud made it real. "You must sacrifice someone close to you," Baba Kalemu continued. "Someone will love you." Chukwudi's breath hitched. Baba Kalemu brought out a black coffin and gestured towards it. "Every night, for 7 nights, you go sleep inside this coffin. When you wake up, money go dey flow. But the spirits need a sacrifice." His mind raced. Who could he sacrifice? Then, Ezin's voice echoed in his head, "Look at you. Your mates are buying Benz. His decision was made. I will do it, he whispered. 2 nights later, Chukwudi took Ezen on a surprise trip. She was excited, thinking he had finally come into money. At night, he led her deep into the bush, where Baba Kalemu and Ifeanyi were waiting. Chukwudi, what's going on? Ezen asked, suddenly afraid. He didn't answer. He couldn't. Before she could scream, Ifeanyi covered her mouth. Baba Kalemu whispered strange words, and Chukwudi raised the dagger. One swift motion, and the deed was done. Her blood soaked the ground. The following morning, his account was credited with 50 million Nigerian nairas. Chukwudi moved to Lekki Phase 1, bought a mansion, and began living the life of a Lagos big boy. Clubs, exotic vacations, luxury cars, he had it all. But the spirits were not done with him. One night, he woke up to whispers in his room. The shadows on the walls twisted, forming a familiar face. Ezen's bloody, lifeless eyes stared back at him. Then, Baba Kalemu's voice echoed in his mind. More money needs more blood. The spirits were hungry again. This time, they wanted his mother and his sisters. At first, he resisted. But the more he spent, the more he needed. The money was not enough. And so, he took Kechi and Amarachi to an expensive hotel in Victoria Island, telling them he wanted to celebrate his success. That night, their lives ended in silence. His mother was next. Chukwudi sat in his Lekki mansion, staring at the expensive Rolex on his wrist. The house was grand, marble floors, chandeliers, and an indoor swimming pool. Outside, his fleet of exotic cars gleamed under the compound lights. He had everything. But he also had nothing. His mother and sisters were gone. The house felt empty, filled with ghosts that only he could hear. At night, he could barely sleep, whispers filled his ears, calling his name. Yet, the money never stopped coming. 500 million Nigerian nairas. 1 billion Nigerian nairas. He could buy anything he wanted, but peace was not for sale. One night, as he lay in his bedroom, the air grew cold. His massive television turned on by itself, showing nothing but static. Then, the whispers started again. Chukwudi. The voice was familiar. Why did you do this to us? Chukwudi's breath caught in his throat. His eyes darted around the room. Then, from the shadows, 3 figures emerged. His mother, his sisters, and Ezen. Their faces were pale, their eyes hollow. Blood dripped from their mouths. You took our lives, they said in unison. Now, it's your turn. Chukwudi jumped out of bed, screaming. He grabbed his car keys and ran downstairs, his heart racing. He needed to leave the house anywhere but here. As he reached the front door, a voice boomed in the air. You can run, but you can't hide. Then, the door slammed shut on their own. Chukwudi fell to the ground, shaking. The spirits were not done with him. The next morning, he called Ifeanyi. Guy, I dey craze. My mama and my sisters know they leave me alone. Ifeanyi sighed. Omo, calm down. You dey new for this game. The spirits they test you. You need to give them something else. Chukwudi's hands shook as he wiped sweat from his face. Something like what? Ifeanyi's voice was cold. Another sacrifice. Chukwudi clenched his teeth. I know fit. I don't do enough. Ifeanyi laughed darkly. Then get ready to die. The call ended. Chukwudi stared at his phone, his mind spinning. He thought of all the people he could offer. His uncles. His childhood friends. His workers. The hunger for more wealth never stopped. And so, he made a call. Baba, I need to do another sacrifice. The priest's voice was calm. Bring someone before the week ends. If not, the spirits will take you instead. Chukwudi had turned into a monster. Killing no longer scared him. He targeted a girl he had been seeing, Blessing, a university student who believed he was her dream man. He took her to a private beach on Victoria Island, pretending it was a romantic getaway. That night, he drove her to a lonely road. "Where are we going, baby?" she asked, laughing playfully. He smiled. "Don't worry. You'll love it." Moments later, her lifeless body was buried in the same Ogun shrine where Ezinne had bled. The next morning, 200 million Nigerian nairas entered his account. But the whispers never stopped. Chukwudi sat in his mansion, staring at the large gold-plated mirror in his bedroom. His once slim, humble frame had changed. He was now heavier, darker, with deep-set eyes that told stories of things he couldn't speak of. His phone vibrated. It was Ifeanyi. "How far, boss?" Ifeanyi's voice was cheerful. "Money don't land." Chukwudi nodded, though Ifeanyi couldn't see him. "Yes. 200 million Nigerian nairas." Ifeanyi chuckled. "You see now? No stress. More blood, more money." Chukwudi sighed. "But the voices, they no stop, Ifeanyi." Ifeanyi's voice hardened. "Omo, forget those things. No normal. You dey new for this game, but you go get used to am. Just keep your mind strong." But Chukwudi wasn't sure he could. Everywhere he went, he saw them. Ezinne. His mother. His sisters. Blessing. Even when he closed his eyes, their voices whispered, "You will never know peace." Baba Kalemo had given him strict instructions. Every night, you must sleep in the casket for protection. The spirits will not harm you if you obey. The first night, he refused. That was a mistake. At exactly 3 a.m., his room became ice cold. His television turned on by itself, showing nothing but static. Then he heard it. Chukwudi. He turned his head slowly, his breath caught in his throat. Standing at the foot of his bed was his mother. Her face was twisted in pain, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Why did you kill us?" she whispered. Then, her mouth opened wider and wider, until it was unnaturally large, revealing blackened teeth and a never-ending abyss. Chukwudi screamed. The next night, he didn't take chances. He climbed into the casket and locked it. Inside, it was dark, suffocating. He could hear his own heartbeat. But he knew, if he didn't do this, he wouldn't live to see the morning. By now, Chukwudi had become one of the biggest boys in Lagos. His name was everywhere. Clubs. Parties. Instagram. Girls fought for his attention. Musicians name-dropped him in their songs. Politicians called him Chief CN. He had 3 mansions, Lekki, Banana Island, and Abuja. A fleet of exotic cars, Benz, Rolls-Royce, Ferrari, Lamborghini. He flew to Dubai and London for the weekend like it was a quick drive to the mainland. But he never truly enjoyed any of it. Because deep down, he knew his time was running out. One night, during a private party in his mansion, Chukwudi stepped outside for fresh air. Then, he heard a voice. A deep, ancient voice. Chukwudi. He turned around sharply. Standing by his swimming pool was a strange old man, dressed in all black. His eyes were pure white, no pupils. Chukwudi sat in his darkened bedroom, his heart racing. The old man's words haunted him. Your debt must be paid. For the first time in months, he was truly afraid. He picked up his phone and called Ifeanyi. Guy, something happened today. Ifeanyi, who was at a strip club, laughed. Omo, no woman walla. No, bro. I see one strange old man. He tell me say my time done almost reach. There was silence. Then Ifeanyi spoke, his voice suddenly serious. That no be ordinary person. Chukwudi swallowed hard. Wetin I go do? Ifeanyi sighed. Meet Baba Kalemo. Maybe he go fit help you. The next morning, Chukwudi drove to Ogun State. Baba Kalemo was waiting for him. The spirits are not happy, Baba said, his red eyes piercing into Chukwudi's soul. Chukwudi fell to his knees. Baba, help me. I no wan die. The old man chuckled. There is only one way. A final sacrifice. A blood stronger than all others. Chukwudi's mouth went dry. Who? Boba's smile widened. You? Chukwudi's body went numb. No, Boba. There must be another way. Boba Kalomo shook his head. You can choose, die now, or sacrifice your own soul for more years. How many years? Boba's face darkened. 7. Chukwudi's mind raced. 7 years was too short, but it was better than dying now. He had no choice. I agree, he whispered. Boba Kalomo handed him a small, black knife. Every year, on this day, you will cut your palm and let your blood drop into the shrine. If you fail, the spirits will collect you immediately. Chukwudi nodded, his hands trembling. He had just signed his final deal with the devil. The next morning, his account was credited with 2 billion Nigerian nairas. His fear disappeared. The parties resumed. The clubs, the women, the champagne. He bought a private jet. He traveled the world, living like a god. But every year, on that day, he returned to the shrine, cut his palm, and let his blood drop. 7 years passed like a dream. Then, one night, he forgot. It was a wild party in his Banana Island mansion. Models, celebrities, politicians, everyone wanted to be with Chief CN. He drank, smoked, and danced until he passed out. When he woke up, it was the morning after. The date had passed. He had missed the ritual. His heart stopped. He grabbed his phone and called a phony. No answer. He called Boba Kalomo. The number didn't exist. Then, the air in the room grew ice cold. A whisper echoed. You broke the deal. Chukwudi turned, his whole body shaking. His mother stood there. His sisters. Ezen. Blessing. Their faces twisted in rage. It's time. He screamed. The walls of the mansion began to bleed. The ground cracked beneath him. He tried to run, but invisible hands dragged him down. The last thing he saw was a black coffin opening on its arm. We will be stopping here. Kindly like, subscribe and share to those desperate of making money to save the young generations from making this mistake. The part 2 will be dropping in the channel. Subscribe and turn on notifications bell to get notified. Thank you.